Hello, everyone. What a pleasure. My name is Michael Unger. I am the scientific director for the CYCC Network, the Children and Youth in Challenging Contexts Network, based at Dalhousie University, but with a national and international scope to our work. I'm joined, as you can kind of see, by our colleagues across the country. I'll let each of them introduce themselves as they bring you up to speed with the part that they're playing in the network. So our purpose here today is to review a little bit, to introduce you very briefly to what the network has been doing, and then just sort of give you a very clear sense of where the network is going in the next few years, and to hopefully introduce you to some very exciting opportunities as well, some of the tools we have and the opportunities. But first, let me just kind of situate us. For the last 4 years, the CYCC Network, funded by the Networks of Centers of Excellence of Canada, we've been able to start a conversation about evidence-based practice and promising practices in regards to at-risk or vulnerable children and youth. And we've done this largely with organizations where there wasn't a strong emphasis on evidence-based practices. We've really been trying to reach out in community-based organizations and from coast to coast to coast to address issues of high priority to service providers in Canada. And we've done some very interesting things. We've innovated a way of bringing everyone together in what we've called wisdom to action meetings. These have been an opportunity to create networks of people to talk about what are important practices that maybe haven't been developed into like randomized controlled trials or published in the academic literature, but good solid ideas that are showing promise across Canada for kids that are at risk. We've also done several knowledge syntheses that have allowed us to pull together information, again, not just in the academic literature, but also in the gray literature, online, using case studies, trying to get people to think about what it is that makes a successful program for children when they're under stress. And of course, we've also been developing a set of tools. We've been kind of just thinking that the best way to help people to develop evidence-based practices is to basically offer free online tools to help people to really engage, begin to sort of document what they're doing well in terms of their particular practice and their particular work sites. So think about it. We're actually getting people to meet. We're trying to compile and bring together all the evidence of what's successful. And the final part is, of course, we're trying to give people themselves the tools. And that's really been the objective over the last 4 years, to start a conversation about evidence-based practices nationally with our many partners. The network now has over 200 members that are sort of actively involved. We're certainly open to expanding that. These are people who contribute to the intellectual commons communities of practice, help us host events nationally, and as you're about to see, we have basically been moving forward to change the way the network works. In our phase 2, when we got our renewal funding a few months ago, what we realized we had to do, what kind of we're growing actually to do, was to create hubs, where we now have several hubs, 4 of them in particular, nationally, that are now doing this work of knowledge mobilization and reaching out to the communities. And we're also, within these hubs, we're now able to offer many more services nationally, such as coaching and a much augmented tool basket of things that you can use to document your successes with your particular organizations. But enough said for me. I'm going to pass it over to each of the hubs to sort of describe a little bit about what they're up to and how the network is sort of growing and what kind of capacity it has nationally to hopefully get you engaged in knowledge mobilization. So if I could pass it up to Taha at the QHRC, and maybe you could just kind of bring it along.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. So my name is Todd Hamish from the Health Research Center. So we are the Kaligyaktit Health Research Center. We're based here up north in Nunavut, in Iqaluit. And we are a small community-based health research center. Our goal is to enable health research to be conducted locally by Nunavummiut with communities in a supportive, safe, and culturally sensitive and ethical environment. We exist in our community to promote Inuit and Western epistemologies and methodologies to address the health concerns, and create healthy environments and improve the health of Nunavut Mute. We have a model that we developed, a partnership model for the health research that we do. It's called the Pili Khatiginnek model, and essentially it is based on both Western and Inuit ways of knowing and ways of doing. And there's a lot going on in this little model here, but at the heart of it, it's about focusing on the relational ways of knowing, and sort of being focused on the idea that we all are knowledge carriers in our communities, and to make sure that we tap into that and do it in a way that is culturally relevant, culturally appropriate. As a center, we are involved in many different sort of health research priorities identified by our communities, spanning from mental health and well-being, physical health, healthy family life, traditional and spiritual values, and then lots of work around prevention, education, supports, and livelihoods. And so there's a whole list there. I'm not going to go through it all. Some of the projects that we're involved in as a center include, some of our more community-driven research projects like child and youth mental health and wellness intervention studies, family perspectives on sexual health and relationships, climate change and health adaptation interventions, child health surveillance systems in Nunavut, food security and nutrition, whole slew of projects there. We're also involved in a lot of territorial or circumpolar projects, pan-Arctic work as well, looking at homelessness and poverty in Nunavut, chronic disease and prevention. We're doing lots of work around sort of mental health and suicide interventions from a circumpolar perspective, primary health care from a circumpolar perspective, infant health and mortality, and exploring Inuit perspectives on end-of-life decision-making to inform clinical practice in Nunavut. There's also, again, some more innovative and different research methods that we like to use. Everything from, incorporating indigenous or Inuit knowledge and ways of knowing. We do a lot of arts-based work using either audio and photo, video voice or photo voice. We're involved in a lot of ethical conversations as well, and ethical considerations in the territory, and we also do a lot of teaching. So we do lots of community research workshops and also guest lecture at the Arctic College here in Iqaluit. Now, why did we join the CYCC network? So at the heart of this, our participation in the network essentially facilitates opportunities to bring Northern perspectives on the health of children and youth to a broader Canadian audience, and to collaborate across sectors to advance knowledge sharing on multiple relevant topics with our fellow hub agencies. We implement an inclusive and collaborative model built on Indigenous ways of knowing. Learning and mentoring opportunities form a significant part of our model. And the CYCC Network's model, which also promotes mentoring, made a natural fit for the work that we were doing. And so, these compatible values was a way for us to join the network and to reach a broader audience. Now, this picture here actually is from our Makimautiksaat Youth Wellness and Empowerment Camp, which from the pilot phase in 2011. This one took place in Cambridge Bay, and the Makimautiksaat Youth Wellness Camp is an evidence-based camp for youth in Nunavut communities, and it's one of the main projects that we'll be showcasing as part of the network. Lastly, the health needs of children in our remote northern and Arctic communities are diverse and complex, and rooted in a unique historical, geographical, and environmental context. And so our center harnesses the strengths of our communities to build on known pathways to wellness for children and youth, and we're very excited to have the opportunity to share these approaches with fellow members on the CYCC network. That was a quick, brief introduction to what we're doing and how we'll be involved. And so, if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them into the Q&A app. And thank you.
But if we can we pass that along then over to the Center of Excellence, or I believe.
I think it's my turn, yeah. So, hi, my name is Marie-Ève, and I'm from, sorry, we're okay? Okay, good. So my name is Marie-Ève, and I'm a project manager here at the CLIP in Montreal. I'm just gonna put my PowerPoint on. There you go. Is this what you see? Is it working? Yeah. So, about the CLIP, well, we're Center for Coordination and Expertise in Knowledge Transfer. Like I said, we're located in Montreal, in Quebec, and we ensure liaison with the psychosocial network, intervention and prevention settings, decision makers, and media. We also transform psychosocial research findings into intervention tools, and we help psychosocial practitioners to implement best practices. So we've joined the CYCC Network in 2016, and why we did actually is to be the French extension of the network. We also did because we wanted to ensure the network's tool a better visibility and an increased use in Quebec. And we are also in the CYCC network because we're working on the S3 application, and the S3 application is developed in order to help the network in evaluating the social return on investment. So right now the CLIP is sharing its tools and its expertise with the CYCC, and we're also building bridges, between the French and English networks. That's it for me.
Can we pass it on?
Sure, I'll go next. So, hi folks, I'm Marianne Terriani from the Ontario Centre of Excellence for Child and Youth Mental Health, and I'm going to introduce you to who we are and what we do. So I'll just get my slides up there. So we're located in Ottawa, and our focus is provincial. So our mandate is looking at the province of Ontario, and we're funded primarily by the Ministry of Children and Youth Services here in Ontario, and we've been around since 2004. You can see a nice shot of our office on a beautiful Ottawa day. We're a staff of about 40. In terms of the work that we do here at the center, our focus is really about capacity building. So we work on, as you can see from our mission, we're all about bringing people and knowledge together in order to improve mental health services so that children, youth, and their families and caregivers can see improved outcomes with their mental health and well-being. We have 3 strategic priorities that are listed on the screen here, and they reflect our working approach. So we seek to build capacity at a community level. So we talk about service areas here in Ontario, and we do this by working directly with community-based child and youth mental health agencies, and we work to build knowledge in key areas that are intended to support improved outcomes for children, youth, and families. We also look to build capacity at a systems level by connecting to evidence and by working in partnership and collaboration with other stakeholders in order to ultimately enhance service planning and delivery. And lastly, we seek impact and innovation through our work. So as a learning organization at the center, we strive for continuous learning, evolution, and innovation. This visual depicts our approach, and you'll see here that children, youth, and families really are at the center of all that we do. The key areas of expertise through which we support agencies and we look to enhance capacity at a system level are in the areas of youth engagement, family engagement, implementation, program evaluation, performance measurement, and also youth suicide prevention, youth life promotion. So the visual tries to show how we work with community child and youth mental health agencies, system stakeholders, and partners to ultimately improve those outcomes for the children, youth, and families that are at the center of all of our work. So why are we partnering with the CYCC Network? This formal partnership actually builds on the work that we do provincially with community-based child and youth mental health stakeholders. So when I described our mission, there's actually a lot of alignment with our mission and mandate and the focus of CYCC Network and the hubs that we are working with. So as part of our journey in this partnership, we're seeking to broaden our reach and impact to organizations across the country that are working with vulnerable children and youth. So our role in this partnership will also allow us to foster more connections and more opportunities for learning across sectors and across this country. So there's a really good fit in terms of our mandates and missions and the focus on the well-being of children, youth, and families throughout Canada. At the Centre, we're also experienced with facilitating community organizations through the Knowledge to Action cycle, so there's a good fit in terms of the focus of the network in their new mandate. We have a lot to offer to the work of the network and to network members. So as an example, you'll see a shot of our resource hub that you'll find on our website. Through this, we have a lot of tools and resources that are available in English and French, and these are evidence-informed tools and resources, many of which will be accessible through the CYCC National Toolkit, which will get described momentarily. We also offer experience and expertise working with community-based agencies to build and enhance capacity around finding and using evidence to, make a difference through the work that agencies are doing. So that's us in a nutshell. If you want to learn more, I'd certainly encourage you to check us out on our website and find out more about what we do through our website or through connecting with us directly or on social media. Our Twitter handles on the screen. So that's it for me.
Lisa, really appreciate that.
Great.
Over to you, Lisa.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Lisa Lachance, and I'm the Executive Director of the CYCC Network. And I have the pleasure of talking a bit more about our new online toolkit that's available. So as Mike spoke to a little bit earlier on, in our first 4 years, we did have a free evaluation toolkit that was available to organizations and individuals to access. It was evidence-based, based on a lot of the research that Mike has led over the years around the world and within Canada, and contained things like how to make a logic model, a really great child and youth resiliency measure, again, evidence-based. And it was there to be used, but and while some organizations could access that toolkit and start using it, we did find that other organizations actually still needed support in terms of time, some time to think about these tools, some facilitating meetings, that sort of thing. And so we really wanted to sort of strengthen the power of the toolkit. And some examples of sort of early projects. The Red Cross is working with the Embrace Life Council in Nunavut to implement sort of adapted violence prevention programs that they've implemented across Canada and around the world to most communities in Nunavut. And they're using some of the tools from that early toolkit to measure the impact. We've also worked with the YWCA here in Halifax and in other centers to use some of those tools. And we've also worked with an organization here in Halifax called Langhouse. And again, some of those early experiences, so in the case of the Red Cross and the Embrace Life Council, they sort of took the tools and started using them. So they didn't necessarily require support along the way, but we certainly saw the value in terms of our relationship with Langhouse, where we would, they would sort of move through their steps in terms of evaluating different aspects of their program and take the opportunity to check back in with network staff in terms of how to implement the next steps. So based on sort of that early experience as well, we've been able to connect with these wonderful organizations that you've heard about earlier across the country, and realizing that we did all share an interest in We've all developed evidence-based tools that are designed for use by communities and by community organizations, and it seemed a natural fit both in terms of what we've been doing and how we've been doing it and the principles that have driven our work to come together and collaborate. And so one of the big projects we've been working on is pulling together all of the tools that we each hub have created and pulling them together into a national, well, I guess international, an online toolkit that's free to access. Many of the tools are bilingual. And so I'm going to screen share so you have a sense of what you might see when you go to the toolkit. Just give me a second. So this is what you'll sort of start with. So you can see some of the areas that the toolkit focuses on. So certainly around knowledge mobilization itself. So how do you gather evidence? How do you share evidence? How do you learn about promising practices? About evaluation. So how do you build the evidence base for programs? As well as best practices that between the four of us we focused on. And I'm hoping that I'm going to try and switch. So for instance, if you choose knowledge mobilization, then you'll go a little deeper and you'll look at some of the sort of parts of doing knowledge mobilization, so planning, doing, and evaluating, as well as other tools that could potentially be useful when considering doing knowledge mobilization, and in this case, some tools from knowledge mobilization activities through QHRC. So that's sort of what you'll see as you go into them. And then, you know, I guess one of the messages that I kind of wanted to make sure we share today, of course, is that it's there and it's free and it's there for you to use. And so you might go in and look at the toolkit. There's a really quick registration process that really you should only have to do once from your computer. And you can pick up these tools and start using them. Part of the registration is that we might follow up with you and ask you kind of what are you using, what works. But they, you know, as of today, they're there and available for use. This is from the Embrace Life Council, so I was going to share the example of them working with the Red Cross. But so I think that's about all that I really want to mention in terms of the toolkit. I'm wondering, you know, I know we're going to talk a bit more about another program that we're launching today, but I don't know if anyone has anything else they wanted to share in terms of the toolkit or any tools that they've put in the tool basket they want to specifically comment on. And if not, maybe what we'll do is we'll pass it over to Tara, who's going to talk a bit about one of the other exciting pieces of our new approach of working together.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the new mentoring model that CYCC is launching, and I'm just going to grab some slides here, so just give me a second.
Just while Tara's doing that, just to reemphasize everyone listening in, that what we were trying to do, of course, was to find ways of engaging the sector, and we were trying to listen. You know, people were saying we need to hear about best practices, we need to have them documented, but we also need to convince funders that what we're doing has merit, and really that's what the tools are about, whether it's a logic model or a way of engaging youth, or a way of mobilizing, you know, just sharing what you're doing, or assessing the readiness of your organization, or indeed looking at something like the social return on investment, which Cliff talked about. These are all sort of a package of things that, depending on where you're at in your process, you'll need, in a sense, to participate in this field, which is really new. And most people don't kind of totally know about knowledge mobilization. Most organizations don't sort of think in terms of, they're sort of, you know, we're doing what we're doing. And this is really meant to be a step back to say, what can we do to share best and promising practices? How can we show that actually what we're doing is sort of the state of the art, even if we're not hiring, you know, spending $1 million on state of the art research and evaluation teams. So with that note, Tara, it looks like you're ready.
Yeah, thank you very much. Some technical difficulties there, but I think I've got it under control. So I just wanted to start with a bit of a question. So have you ever found yourself wanting to know more about how your program or practice, how it's serving your clients, or how you can change your program to make it even better? Or maybe you already know intuitively that you have, and through informal feedback, that a program or practice is working really well for your clients, but you want some evidence to back it up. Or maybe you already have some really great information or a big idea to share about a promising program or practice, but you aren't quite sure how to get your message out there to everybody else. So if any of these kinds of scenarios sound like you, you might be a great candidate to apply for the Evaluation or Knowledge Mobilization Mentoring Program through the CYCC Network. So basically what it is agencies can apply to receive support from a knowledge mobilization and evaluation mentor to help them tackle their evaluation or knowledge mobilization challenges. We kind of see mentorship as a relationship where we help to support and encourage you to work through your evaluation or evidence challenge. We want the space to feel safe so we're comfortable to learn and grow together. So CYCC mentors are staff within each hub that have a strong knowledge and experience with knowledge mobilization and program evaluation. They also have experience or demonstrated capacity to work collaboratively and support capacity building within community organizations and among diverse stakeholders. They bring to the work a passion for supporting positive outcomes with children and youth.
Tara, I'm just hopping in. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I just want the slides aren't progressing. I don't know if you've been trying to roll your slides. I just wanted to say, and I think that as well, Marianne's slides didn't move forward either. So for those who are online, oh, there you're, Tara, yay! But maybe we'll make the slides available on our website. I think we can probably do that. I'm sure we have the technology. So so if we don't quite get to see all the images people are referring to, we'll make sure that they're available. So I'm going to mute myself again and let you back at it, Tara.
Okay. Is it working now? I tried to switch views. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, so there are a number of different areas a mentor could support you in, and when you're accepted into the program, your mentor will work with you to kind of learn more about your organizational context and develop a work plan that kind of outlines what you're hoping the relationship will accomplish. The relationships are intended to be about a year in length, and so hopefully we can support you with a larger challenge that you've been facing. Some examples of the kinds of things we can help with kind of include supporting literature reviews, environmental scans, or needs assessments, supporting access to evidence, understanding research evidence, and how to apply research evidence, supporting efforts to enhance data collection, supporting efforts to analyze, manage, and share data, supporting evaluation efforts, including developing a logic model and evaluation plan, and then supporting knowledge mobilization planning. So that's kind of what we can help with. In terms of how we can help, there are a couple of things that we can do. So we can kind of provide you with tools and resources, and the Toolkit is a really good example of that. We also can facilitate connections to other resources and organizations who might be doing similar work to you. And we can facilitate presentations and learning sessions and provide consultation support either virtually or through in-person meetings. So that kind of gives you a sense of what it is we can do for you. And in terms of how to receive this support, there are a few key eligibility criteria if this is something that sounds interesting to you. So first of all, you need to work with vulnerable young people to support their mental health and well-being. You need to be a community-based organization within Canada that provides service to young people. Your programs need to be available in English and/or French. You need to be interested in and committed to using evaluation, evidence, and knowledge mobilization in your work. And you need to commit to becoming a CYCC member and meet the membership requirements, and of which you can probably find on their website. In terms of the application process, there are a couple of steps. So one of the things that would be helpful if you did first is to review the CYCC's Evaluation and Knowledge Mobilization Toolkit that was just mentioned, because it'll give you an idea of the kinds of supports that we can provide, and have a discussion within your organization about your evaluation and knowledge mobilization needs. So once you kind of know what you need, you can begin the application process. So the first stage of the application process is to complete a quick online questionnaire that's going to ask you questions like, how do you support mental health and well-being of young people you serve? What's the evidence or the evaluation challenge that you want to solve? How have you kind of managed this challenge to date? And who would participate from your organization? So that's just kind of a snapshot of some of the kinds of questions that you'll be asked. The deadline for those applications is July 29th of this year. So then we'll kind of look at all the applications that come in, and a select number of people will move on to the next stage, which is a readiness assessment. And the readiness assessment just is brief, and it just gives us an idea kind of where you're at and how we can best support you in those key areas. And the deadline for that readiness assessment is September 2nd. And then once we get all those back, we'll look at them all again, and then as of September 20th, we'll let people know if they have been successful, and then they'll start a relationship with their mentor. So that's kind of the mentorship model in a nutshell. So this is an official call for applications. It's kind of launched. So you can visit the CYCC website for more information, and the link is up in the little yellow tag showcase portion at the top of your screen. And that's it for me.
That's great. So there's a third thing we wanted to introduce to our audience today, which was around the community of practice. And as a specific example, our young refugee. Marie, are you going to share that?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the community of practice. So, following the Wisdom to Action on Young Refugees, the CYCC initiated a community of practice to facilitate the communication between experts and professionals working with young refugees. Well, for those who are not familiar with community of practice, we define the community of practice as a group of persons who share interests for a subject or a problem and work together for a long or maybe a short period to exchange ideas, to find solutions, and to innovate. So the community was launched at the beginning of the month of June, and future members answered a short survey about their interest in the community and the amount of time that they'd be willing to put in it. From these answers, we're trying to plan a first meeting where members could meet through a virtual platform and get together and just like exchange for the first time together. So ultimately, members will decide the subjects and the themes that will be discussed, but in a short scale, first meeting and a virtual space for exchange are worked on. If you're interested in promising practices for supporting young refugees, you should definitely join the National Community of Practice. We're still taking some applications, and whoever is interested only to observe or to participate, you can reach Rebecca. You see her web address at the page, and you can also reach at the CYCC because we're at the beginning of the community of practice and we're definitely looking for new members, so don't be shy.
That's excellent. Indeed, and this is one example of a community of practice that we are actually developing. So again, I'm just going to tie this all together. Our direction here is to respond to critical issues for youth in challenging contexts within Canada and indeed internationally. So this has obviously been on the minds of many Canadians, with 58% of the young people, the people who have come in as Syrian refugees to Canada, of course, are under the age of 24, or under the age of 25, I should say. So we know that is an issue for communities across the country, and we've been responding with a number of initiatives. Looking at best practices, setting up a community of practice, holding these community meetings where we call Wisdom to Actions, and indeed getting our partners, our hubs involved in this. So you have a sense now of all the different tools that we're, in terms of the direction we're going. We hope that you'll take advantage of, whether it's just downloading some of the tools, perhaps putting in an application for mentorship to help your organization become a knowledge hub, or not a knowledge hub, but a sort of an organization that can do more knowledge mobilization, participate in looking at your practice and seeing if it is in fact a promising practice, documenting it, getting some help with the uptake, sharing what you're doing well. We also hope, of course, that you'll participate in our regional Wisdom to Actions, or maybe just suggest to the network, join the network and suggest a topic that we should be addressing, whether it's gang violence or youth suicide. There are certainly many challenges confronting young people in Canada that we're trying to respond to. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is just sort of say that's the network and that's where we've been, and indeed that's where we're going. Lots of opportunities to access resources and bring you involved. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is pass it over to Rebecca and see if there's been questions posted, and just to check on if there are questions or comments or clarifications that people would like.
Hi, and it's Lisa here. I think Rebecca is sort of monitoring things on Twitter as well, and I don't see any questions in the question box. You know, certainly this is a great time to ask them, but all of this information about the hubs and the toolkit and the mentoring program is all on our website, so that's cyccnetwork.org. And any questions you have about that, certainly to contact Rebecca or I is pretty easy. And we actually, our main email is cycc@dal.ca, so you can find us there as well. And so maybe I'll give it a couple more minutes for questions and just check and make sure that I haven't had a message from Rebecca about any other questions, and then we might be finished for the day.
Does anyone else from the panel want to add in anything about, or perhaps any key examples that you've seen of this work that's maybe been sort of igniting interest in your communities? I might, you know, just as an informed here for a second. You all have experience. We're beginning to work more and more together, but also I understand that, you know, many of you have. The reason we've brought everyone together is, of course, people have such incredible range of expertise. You're going to be shy.
So I might hop in again. So if there aren't any questions at this moment, again, just feel free to contact us or people at the hubs. And this whole presentation will also be embedded as a video on our website as well for you to refer back to. So with that, I'd like to thank all of our presenters for today and those of you who have listened in online. And I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everyone.
All the best, folks.
Thank you.